Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Aubrey Coleman, one of the hosts for the podcast, and today we'll be looking into 2 Kings chapters 22 through 25. Chapter 22 begins with Josiah on the throne at 8 years old. He was a good king in the eyes of the Lord, and followed in the ways of King David. During the 18th year, Josiah sent his scribe Shaphan to the high priest. He desired to restore the house of the Lord, and that meant he needed to pay the workers with the tithes of the people. During the visit, the high priest shared that an old scroll, the book of the law of the Lord, had been uncovered by the workers while they worked. So the scribe took it to King Josiah and read it aloud for him. Upon hearing the words of the scroll, Josiah tore his clothing and enlisted officials to go ask the Lord what needed to be done. The people of God had neglected the law of Moses, and God's wrath was coming. The king's officials went to a prophet named Hudah, who confirmed the words of the scroll to be true. However, because of the king's humility to seek the Lord, the prophet shared that the Lord would let King Josiah die in peace, and he would bring his wrath to another generation. Hearing the news of God's mercy and favor, King Josiah wanted to bring reform. He gathered everyone together, people young and old, to read aloud the book of the law. Then he made a covenant with the Lord that he would keep the commands written in this book with his heart and soul. All the people agreed to the covenant. Following the meeting, Josiah made many changes in his kingdom. He destroyed anyone and anything that opposed God, including anything associated with Baal or other false gods. He demolished temples, statues, and buildings that offended God. He even dug up the bones of idol worshippers and grinded their bones to dust. King Josiah was serious. Once he was done, he instituted the first Passover just as it had been done in the day of Moses. Though the Lord was pleased with King Josiah, he still was not pleased with the people of Judah, and he would still remove his presence in the coming generations. King Josiah died, and his son Jehoahaz took his place, but he only lasted 3 months before he was arrested. Josiah's other son, Eliakim, took the throne as king of Judah, and Pharaoh changed his name to Jehoiakim. He was evil in the sight of the Lord. While Jehoiakim was king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon and led an attack on Judah. As a result, Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years until Jehoiakim rebelled. His rebellion provoked troops from Chaldees, Syria, Moab, and Ammon to slowly attack Judah. The Lord sent prophets to warn Judah, but they would not listen. Judah was crumbling, and they no longer had help from other lands. King Jehoiakim died, and his son Jehoiakim, let's call him Jehoc to avoid confusion, took the throne as king of Judah. He too was evil like his father, and he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, making his reign only 3 months long. He was removed personally by King Nebuchadnezzar, who took him back to Babylon along with his family, servants, and officials. The prophecy against Judah's capital, Jerusalem, was taking place, and everything was taken from the Lord's temple and the king's palace. King Nebuchadnezzar deported all of Jerusalem's best people out and took them captive in Babylon, leaving only the poor and weak behind. The Babylonian king appointed Jehos's uncle, Zedekiah, as king of Judah. In the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar had the entire city of Jerusalem surrounded. The city had grown weak to famine, and the Babylonians took advantage of their weakness and attacked. King Zedekiah fled the city, but he was caught and put in prison. Not only that, he had to watch his sons die before him, and then his eyes were gouged and he was blinded. Horrific. The Babylonian military eventually invaded, plundered, and emptied out the rest of Jerusalem and burned the city. Everyone was killed or kept as captives in Babylon. Jerusalem fell, just as God warned. King Josiah brought about reformation and repentance after many years of wickedness. The Lord showed him favor, but his wrath would not relent on the unrepentant sins of the previous generations. The final chapters in the book of 2 Kings records God's chosen Israel's tragic fall. Leaders were executed, kings were exiled, treasures were stolen, and the Lord's temple was burned to the ground. As shocking as it is, these events should not be unexpected. All of these things came about under God's sovereign hand. But God still had a plan. As we witness God's judgment throughout the book of 1st and 2nd Kings, may we also recognize his abundant mercy. He would not leave his people forever. When we consider the judgment and wrath of God, we should be afraid. Sin is grievous, and as we recognize the punishment it deserves, may we be all the more overwhelmed by the merciful act of Jesus Christ on the cross, who endured the wrath reserved for us. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Be sure to follow along on our Instagram pages at Daily Grace Podcast and at Daily Grace Co. And check out our website, www.thedailygraceco.com, for all kinds of fun resources. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we would love for you to leave a review on iTunes to help more people find out about our show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to chatting again tomorrow.